a choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a ride.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expounding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this incredibly cool episode, Kesenya Moore and David Mathisen join me to get more hyped about the fact that we are all going to the Contact in the Canyons here in Duck Creek Village, Utah. That's going to be April 20th through the 24th. Couple spots left, I believe, so you guys come hang out with us. My wife, Mary, is going to be joining us as well.
Hello.
Yeah, buddy. So we are super pumped about this. It's hiking. It's all kinds of stuff. Now, heads up for this episode, in particular, the audio-only audience. Check the link in the show description for expandingrealitypodcast.com. That is where the video version of this show can be found. And there's a whole presentation that David puts on. It's absolutely awesome and mind-blowing. His font choice is absolutely perfect. And so definitely check that out. All the ways to find them located in the show description, as well as the event. Again, guys, April 20th through 24th. Come hang out with us. We'd love to see you. So without any further ado, let's get to this incredibly cool conversation with Kesenya Moore and David Warner Mathisen. Do you guys have that saying in Australia, Kesenya?
No, we don't.
No, we don't even have it in the United States.
We would call it a chook.
Okay. Well, and
we
on
don't
that,
have that expression either, Kesenya. I don't know what he is
that exclusively a Texan thing? Okay, well, we're not going to say what that was. I'm going to air this just after we started laughing about it. But you guys can come find out what that saying was at the Contact at the Canyons, and you can come join us, and that's what we're going to hang out and talk about here. Super excited. Kesenya Moore, David Mathisen. It's so good to see you all. Cannot wait to give huge hugs in person. This is going to be extra special, of course, but thank you guys so much for sitting down and hanging out with me. We don't need intros because we've all done all that, and I'm going to link all the other shows that y'all have been on anyhow, so we could skip ahead to the dope shit and let's just get to it. And that S-bomb means that we drop out of, we drop down a bracket in YouTube monetization because we cursed within the first 5 minutes of it. But you know what I say to that? Fuck it, because we're doing the Contact at the Canyons thing. I don't give a shit. Guys, it's good to see y'all. How are you?
I love it. It's great to be with you, Brandon.
Are y'all ready for this for 4 days? Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure now. I'm starting to get cold
woof.
feet.
You're like, woof. Like that, what is it, a 29-hour plane ride? Look, you'd be looking forward to it.
Be kind when I get there.
Yeah, and I remember that going to China. It was like 37 hours to get there or something like that. It was weird. And then on the way back, I lived the same day twice, which was interesting.
Yes.
Time travel.
You lose a day and gain a day. I know, that's the best we can do for time travel at this point in time in history.
In time,
Maybe in the future we'll actually get it. But no, it's I'm really excited to come and see Bryce Canyon and Zion Canyon because I've only ever heard how gorgeous they are. So it's a great place to be catching up.
Yes, and the wife and I are going too. What's that? No, go ahead,
Meeting
please.
for the first time.
I know. I'm so fucking excited. And actually, another buddy of mine, Drew Burkholder, he's an Expansive Insider, and I'm shouting him out again. We shouted him out with Graham and the guys on the last episode because he's going to be there. He actually adores you, Kesenya, and he said that he found out about you through our conversations on the show. So super excited. He's like, I'm doubly excited to meet. He's super cool dude. So shout out again, Drew. We're looking forward to hugging you as well, brother. So this is going to be an awesome event, and I am super pumped about it. Of course, all the ways, guys, to find this and them as well are going to be located down in the show notes. Make sure you'll check that out. Only a couple of spots left. I mean, like less than some. So make sure you guys check that out and get on board with this. We want to come hang out with you. So come hang out with us. We're going to be there anyway, right? You might as well. So
that is going to be awesome. I tell Drew I'm going to be gifting people who come a year ahead astrology report. So he's already on the list and he'll be getting one when I get there.
Did you hear that, Drew? Keeps getting better, dude.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. All right. Well, y'all come get it. Signed up for that too. Come hang out with us. So what are we looking forward to here? David, what are you looking forward to on this thing, man?
Yeah, this is going to just be another unforgettable event. The guys at Grimerica really started these Contact at the Cabin series of events to be kind of taking a typical traditional conference and flipping it on its head, where in a traditional conference, everyone's kind of sitting in a big room somewhere, an auditorium, and they have a parade of different speakers going across the stage. And, you get a wide range of different people. This is a lot more focused, and you're there the whole time with them, and you're doing things like going out and hiking in the beautiful, nature, and doing breath work with the great Brandon Powell, who's a master instructor in the Wim Hof method. He does breath work that is it's really an amazing discipline that I was never exposed to before the first one of these. So this is the third one. And then I'll be doing stars over Bryce Canyon. The day that we go to Bryce and hike around, we stay out there until we watch the sun go down and the stars come out, and then just glorious stars as long as we want to stay out there. And then there is a flex day in there where people can go back to Bryce, can go to Zion, can ride in side-by-sides. There's all different kinds of things that you can do. And like on the crazy trails that are up there in the mountains, now, it might be a little snowier this year than it has been in previous years.
I want to know if Brandon's got his swimsuit ready, because ice baths, Brandon.
Well, what I love, and my wife, by the way, pointed this out. We keep calling it this now. You have replaced the word swimsuit for us. We call them bathers now because of you.
Yeah.
In your little video, you're like, bring your bathers. And Mary and I now say that all the time to each other. I'm like, you got your bathers? She's like, yes. And it's cute.
You do
and
a
yes.
very good Aussie accent. You really
Thank
do.
you. It's my favorite
Yes.
one. Yes, we are
or
bathers
budgie
ready.
smugglers. We call them men's bathers. Budgie smugglers.
We do grape
Use your imagination
smugglers.
for why.
No, I was saying, man, we'll give you one from here. Grape smugglers, and then the banana hammock I like because that's just phonetically fun to say. Banana hammock. Like that's just fun. So yes, I've got that, and it is.
You've got that packed? Good.
Maybe. I hope I have it packed. You know what I'm saying? But I don't think you're gonna have much in there after those ice baths, right? I'm gonna say goodbye to those for a little while. Yeah. Which that's an intelligent design thing.
Yeah.
That's an intelligent design thing too. We're not going to splinter on this. Maybe I don't know. But why are they out there all flopping around? David, have you ever? I know you've thought about this. We all have. Like they're out there all vulnerable and exposed. Like why don't you have them tucked up in you? You know what I mean? I get that it's a temperature thing, but it seems evolutionarily that'd be the first thing that you'd kind of like, secure. You know what I mean?
There are reputed to be kung fu exercises where you can train to voluntarily control that function.
Really?
Of like for protection. I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh, expanding reality. You know what? We're just going to put that out there. David Warner Mathisen. I'm going to make T-shirts. Hey, quote you on that. Follow the discipline. You get to suck them up inside you. That's very cool. Anyway,
you got to be like a real master, I think, probably to do that.
All right, just really cold. I'm saying these ice baths may have been the inspiration for that. They're like, it's a painful process getting them up there. Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying.
That's not control.
It's a painful experience. So they're like, I'm going to Wim Huff them up inside me before intentionally because that process is
This
jarring.
interview has already taken this.
It's going exactly where it should. Exactly where it should.
The wheels are already off.
I'm just wondering if there's any star constellations that speak to the idea of being a eunuch, David. Because isn't that what we're talking about?
The fascinating segue.
That's not what we're talking about.
Amazing. I love that we're still, I love this. Yeah, let's go with it. But that's what's so cool is we get to go out there and make up myths in Bryce Canyon. And I'm going to take over the laser pointer for a little bit if we're out there long enough. And we'll have a whole new decoupage of mythologies to pass along to the next generation by the time we leave there. That'll be fun.
No, it's going to be fantastic. And so just to kind of wrap around, you said, well, explain this. That's what it is. It's hanging out with the podcasting team of Grimerica, the podcasting superstar of Brandon and Expanding Reality, and his
a smoke show of a goddess wife, dude.
Goddess other.
If anything,
Mary,
she's worth a trip. Yeah.
Hanging out with Kesenya, hanging out with me. I've said it, I think, on the Grimerica discussion that we did with Graham and Darren. You know, you can go look at all my videos that I've put out, or my online courses, or books that I've written, to get the content. And we will talk about the content. I've got some amazing stuff to share, but really that's a small portion. Sitting down and listening to a lecture is just to kind of get you oriented to the stars. The important part of this is experiencing, hanging out, having fun, being human men and women together in a glorious place with other people who are open-minded. It's not that we all necessarily believe the same things, but it's just so refreshing to hang out with people who listen to Expanding Reality. You know, in this world, sometimes it's like, well, your family doesn't necessarily want to hear everything that you might want to talk about. But at these events, everybody, like I said, not everybody is into all the same things, or even necessarily believes the same theories about everything. But that doesn't matter. It's just an open-minded, fun group to hang out with, new friends, good vibes.
Yeah, the connection. That's what I'm so pumped about. And that's why this event is so cool, because it's so intimate. That's what's so fun, because you're going to get the extremely deep and all of that stuff, but we're also going to make dick jokes and stuff. You know what I mean? That's like the scope. You get the authenticity. You get this high caliber conversation and the realism with who we are, which is wonderful.
The fun. All the fun.
And what I love about this particular trip, by the way, because this is a special manifestation for me, actually, this is proof that the universe actually gives you better than what you thought it was going to be. So in 2020, my wife and I, at that time, the last time we went anywhere was to the Grand Canyon, and this was 8 years ago. And it was my mom's like 50th, like she was super pumped to hike the Grand Canyon. It was awesome. So we went out there, but we have not gone on anything since until this. And here's why I'm super pumped about this in particular. So not only has it been long and like we totally deserve it, all that good shit, but in 2020, I had a secret trip planned because we're such road warriors. You've just heard that we're going to drive 17 hours like gladly. We're like, yeah, we'll do this and we'll do that. So we're planning. I'm planning this huge road trip, and guess where we were going? Zion, Bryce. Like that's where we were going because we wanted to spend time in Utah. I knew that because when we were in the Grand Canyon, we stayed in Winslow, Arizona. Right there, Wilson, right below it, whatever that is, and the South Rim. And then whenever we were going back, we're on the road. And the way my wife and I work is we have a map. And I go, hey, have you been to Utah yet? And she goes, no. So we went up there, saw Monument Valley. Then we got to go over and we saw the canyons. Damn it, I forget what it's called. But it's the cliff dwellings, in southern Colorado near Durango, and then we stayed in Durango that night. So we're just like all over the place. But in 2020, I had this epic road trip planned, and this is exactly where we were going and what we were going to see. But here's the way that I'm interpreting that the universe works way better is because now we get to go, but we get to go to this, and we get to be with y'all. So it's different. What I had planned was us driving through and just going, oh, that's cool, but missing all of the nuance of what you guys have to offer the experience while we're out there. So this is going to be way cooler. And this is another proof again to this idea of like just get out of your own way. The universe has something way better. So if you're planning something that fell through, just again, something like this, with this energy is right behind it. You know what I mean? It's just cool. Like I said, it's a personal affirmation, I guess, or just
That's
something I'm witnessing.
Such a great concept. I mean, in a lot of my astrology readings that I do, people are devastated because such and such didn't work out or things didn't happen. But that approach is like, no, it's all in the universal timing. It's all in the cycles, and what you're wanting, what you're putting out there, it will come. But when the stars align, in my opinion.
Oh my God, segue. So I love your segue, by the way. You're the master at that. So what are we going to...
Random segues.
I love it. You're just like, hey. So what are we going to expect from you? Like what, besides your membership, which that's amazing.
Yes, so everyone who comes will, if they can provide Darren and Graham with their birth details, I'm going to give everybody a solar return. That's what it's called, a solar return chart, which is a look at your personal year ahead, through the lens of astrology. But I'm there to chat with, so chat about your charts, chat about your sun, moon, rising sign, all that sort of thing, as part of the discussions. And I'm there to enjoy the stars over Bryce and Zion Canyon too. So, yeah, I'm very, very excited to be part of this team. It's great.
I'm so excited too because they planned this. I don't know if this was on purpose, but number one, 420, yay. But number two, it's on a blackout evening, so it's going to be a new moon at that time. So we're going to get to see all of the stars. And it's also an eclipse.
It's a powerful eclipse. It's only going to be visible, that particular eclipse is only going to be visible across sort of Western Australia and Indonesia. So we won't be seeing it from Utah. But the energy of that eclipse is so fascinating, Brandon. It's what in astrology there's something called a Saros cycle, which is different to the Metonic cycle of the moon. But a Saros cycle repeats every 18 years, and so those particular eclipses in the Saros cycle carry the same tone, the same effect, the same nature as it did 18 years ago. So think about where you were 18 years ago. What were you doing? Who were you interacting with? What might be repeating now? It's a very interesting Saros cycle too, because the theme of the Saros cycle, you and Mary are going to have a great time at Zion. It's about getting it on. That's the theme for this particular.
Oh, we bang. Yeah. Especially new places, dude. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You got to. I don't know what it is either. I know everyone can empathize. Y'all come knocking if you want, but it's going to be rocking for a reason. But what I'm saying is, I don't know what it is, right? That's a road trip thing. You know, that's a being somewhere different. I don't know. I love it, though. It's absolutely accurate.
That's the energy of this eclipse. So it's very potent and intense kind of energy, but very, it's quite beautiful actually. So if anyone out there listening is looking for love, this eclipse could be the one you need.
Come on.
Depending on where it falls in your chart.
Look at that, Kesenya. Come on. What do you think about that, David?
Yeah, she just knocked it out of the park. So we do plan these for new moons, and Darren was like, "Oh, perfect! The new moon is 420 this time." So this is the third one we've done. We always do them on a new moon, and actually, we just passed a full moon. If I'm not mistaken,
it'll be Thursday.
Just coming up.
Thursday for us. Friday for
We're just coming up. So basically that means we're a little more than 2 weeks away.
It's perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
So, stars over Bryce. I can show you some, scenes from our previous episodes, previous 2 times that we've done this in a little slideshow that I prepared. But it is about, those cycles, their impact on who we are, and knowing yourself. What Kesenya was just talking about of, knowing your chart, or she's going to give us a look at the year ahead and where our each person has different ingredients. That's kind of the metaphor that I'm using. Like this interview already is different than any that I've ever done.
Oh, yeah, me too. Yeah.
We talked about some different topics than any before so far, and that's what it is. Every single person who comes to this event is a different ingredient that makes that event what it is. So this and that's so this is a special event. You being there is special. It brings a new ingredient. We all have a mix of ingredients, gifts, and those gifts in the ancient myths are gifts from the gods. And in fact, the studying of the ancient myths that I've been doing for the past 13 or more years now, I've been studying mythology my whole life, but really connecting with the stars and the myths, I'm convinced that the myths are teaching that the gods work their way out through men and women. That doesn't mean that they're not in the divine realm also, if whatever that means, or at the same time, but you have inside of you, the energy of Ares or Mars or Athena or Thor or Odin. Those myths are teaching us about the way the universe works and what's going on within the as above, so below. Right now, actually, we are in the quote Holy Week in at least the Western Christian literalist tradition, and in traditionally in that week, people put on Easter pageants. Like this has been going on in Europe for hundreds or even thousands of years, where they are acting out, they're performing all the roles. And I'm actually thinking about, like, I should do a video about this, because there's an influential thinker who's influenced me a lot, Robert Taylor, who lived in the 1700s, early 1800s. And he was talking about the stars, how the Bible is based on the stars. And he said, all of these myths would be acted out, whatever culture you were in. The ancient Greeks had, the amphitheaters, and the gods would come onto the stage. Even today in China, they have like Beijing opera and then Cantonese opera, and they're different, but the face, like the patterns of the face paint that the actors wear represent, you are this god. And so when you put that paint on, you become that god or that goddess. And you have once you put character on, you become that god, and people treat you like, we can't speak to that, or that one can't speak unless, this or that. There's like rules that are very strict. When you go across, they actually have something called the Tiger Line, which is really interesting. Like on their the traveling boats that the acting troops would take through like southern China, where there was a lot of rivers to get around. They would have the acting troops would have these red boats, and when you cross the Tiger Line, you were in character. Anyway. What am I saying?
That's awesome, David.
I'm trying to bring it back to.
Beautiful, though.
The point is that the gods and goddesses, we're acting that out. Some people are acting that out in Christian pageants right now, or Easter pageants. What does that mean? It means you're taking on the role of, you're acting this out, because the gods and goddesses, the ancient myths, are about us as much as they're about another realm, and they're about this internal landscape that we all have going on, where yes, there's the angry god of arrogant war, like Ares, sometimes takes over the steering wheel of my brain, and I'm like, man, where did he come from, and how do I get the steering wheel back? That the myths are talking about that kind of thing. So
ties in so much to astrology too, because everybody's got Aries somewhere in their chart influencing some aspect of their life where those characteristics can come out. Everybody's got Taurus, so it's there's a similar concept or vein running through both ideas there, the astrology and the myths being influential on our personal lives as well. I mean, why did the ancients construct these stories in the first place? To bless humanity, to gift humanity with something powerful. So it's really important what you do, Dave, and what you share.
Well, thanks. And it's about know yourself. So I believe that what you're doing with astrology is trying to help us. It's about know yourself. And I've said it before, but it's so powerful to me that in one of the most sacred places of ancient Greece, where you heard the voice of the gods, was Delphi. And many ancient sources said that the inscription at Delphi, and they had various inscriptions, but the one inscription that all the different ancient sources say this was the inscription at Delphi was, know thyself. So the place you go to hear the voice of the gods says, know thyself. So that's what the ancient myths are actually pointing you towards, is know yourself, and actually your higher self, or your deeper self, your authentic self. That is where you hear, or that is like the pivot, or the connection through whom or through which you hear the voices of the gods. I'm convinced. So
Brandon's higher self may have been drawing him to go to Zion and Bryce all along. And finally, everything's come together to make it happen. But you were being
100%.
pulled there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We've been called. I've been out that way when I was on tour, 'cause I was a touring musician. So I went through like the Grand Canyon and then played Scottsdale and like all down that way. But I was all up in the West Coast and everything. So I love that area anyway. And she's a huge, like, New Mexico, Southwest, turquoise, all that shit. And she rocks all that stuff too. So I think, she has a splash of Native American in her, Indigenous American rather. And so, it's this type of event as well where it's going to be at. I just read a book by a guy named Gary A. David, and it's called Kivas in Heaven, and it's about Hopi star lore. So it's all where this is. And I that was like my fourth book of the year. So I read that long before y'all even probably had planned this thing. You know what I mean? I read it early on in the year. So I was already I'm already very prepped for this. So that Zion, those pictographs that we're going to go see, those are all pictured in that book. But to what you were saying, David, and why I brought it up is because they do the same thing. They embody these cochinas and they dress exactly, and they anthropomorphize the qualities of the gods. And it's based on the seasons, and all of it has to do with Orion. And that's based on where he is. And then they do these different dances and retreats into the Kiva and stuff like this. So, but they do the same thing. They embody this character through dress. And I know like the Dogon tribe over in Africa does the same thing. So these folks do. And so what you're saying is prolific. You see it everywhere with folks embodying their gods and bringing them down and really being in that character. And to what you said as well, same thing back to the Hopis, they will run around and like snatch up kids and play that character. Right. And so it's the same thing, and it's absolutely fascinating. And you could say then that if that was occurring, that perhaps that's what, I guess, allowed ritual sacrifice to be stomached a little bit better, because they're like, no, it's not me, I'm just in character. You know what I mean? Kind of like the executioner doesn't really get charged for anything. He's just
Is that what
doing
they
his
did?
job.
They were.
Well, some did. So some cultures, like the Mayan, few people had ritual sacrifice, but those that did it, were embodying and doing it for the god. So perhaps there was some sort of separation there, rather than pure adoration for the gods in subservience. That was there too, but also it's like an embodiment so that the act could be carried out in purity, sort of a thing. David, is there anything to that?
Well, so this is a really interesting connection you just brought up with the Kachinas. And I'll circle back to that question about, so yes, they do I won't say the exact same, but it's the same. Yeah. It's the same pattern worldwide, and they're putting on the divine and stepping into that character. But also, the Hopi, the face paint for their specific face paint for pattern for a certain type of clown that is black and white facial bars. In the Chinese opera, there's a character who's a clown that has the same or very similar black and white face paint pattern, which is a very interesting connection. And so that ties into what I was going to say about this concept of ritual sacrifice, or there was an ancient worldwide system. This is very clear. My work involves seeing the evidence in the myths of the world, and I'll show a little bit of some evidence for people who may not be familiar with what I'm talking about, that they are all using the same system, and it's a worldwide system, and it's a very ancient system. It's worldwide. It's under it's the foundation under all the myths of the world, whether that's ancient Egypt or the Native American sacred stories, Africa, Australia, China, Norse myths, Greek myths, Mesopotamia, Babylon and Sumer before. And so it's also in the most ancient Sumerian tablets are already using this system. The most ancient Egyptian pyramid texts are already using this system. Ancient India, the Vedas, are already using this system. So where did they get it? It's from something, most likely, I believe it's from a culture earlier than all of those, because they the most early writings that we know of, the Vedas, the pyramid text, the Gilgamesh tablets, and there's the descent of the goddess Inanna from Sumer. Those are very ancient. and they're already using this system, but in different ways. Like it's almost like they've already evolved into different streams from something way more ancient. And it's in the Maya, Popol Vuh of the Maya. And conventional timeline of history does not know what to do with that at all. But the evidence is overwhelming. I've written books totaling over 5,000 pages with pictures, with star charts. It's just beyond doubt. It's very compelling, and I would say it's conclusive evidence that this is going on. So where did it come from? I believe there's a deep ancient that's even more ancient than what we call ancient, like more ancient than the ancient Egyptians, more ancient than ancient Mesopotamia. And if you know the work of Ben from Uncharted X, he shows evidence that what we know of the dynastic ancient Egyptians, they were gathering up stuff that they did not know how to manufacture, that is just advanced machining and things that is just amazing. And the Younger Dryas impact theory, that George Howard and Randall Carlson talk about, is likely, I believe there was some kind of catastrophe that separates the ancient world from the deep ancient world. Like Göbekli Tepe, buried thousands of years before ancient Egypt. So deliberately buried. So there was something even more ancient, probably like before the Younger Dryas impact, or whatever the catastrophe or catastrophes were, that separated the ancient from the deep ancient. And so I'm not completely sure that the ancients knew knew what they had. Like they knew more about it than we do. They were closer to it than we are, but they had experienced the catastrophe probably thousands of years before and held on to these precious fragments. And so could it have been for something different and then potentially misinterpreted? I'm not sure that child sacrifice is what, there are texts in the Bible, like the Psalms, about dashing a child's head against the rock. Well, guess what? That is a celestial metaphor. It is not literal. But it could be misinterpreted literally in all kinds of bad ways. And so I think we have these precious texts, and yet maybe in some cases we've gone in the wrong direction with them because there was some kind of catastrophe and we've got amnesia. Graham Hancock always says we have amnesia.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. It's interesting that ancient Carthage under Hannibal was doing child sacrifice at the same time as the opposite side of the world, Aztecs and Mayan. Like that it was, like you're saying, everything was linked. And here's another example of how there was similar kind of procedures like going on that were horrific, but accepted by cultures on opposite sides of the globe as something that you do. It's, to me, that's incredible, horrible, but incredible that it would be all happening at the same time. Anyhow, like you say, coming from perhaps a similar source that had been misinterpreted the wrong way.
I mean, nobody can say for sure how the right interpretation was, but I do find evidence that the purpose of these ancient myths is esoteric and not literal, and it is to reconnect with self, but that leads to reconnection with the divine realm. And it's not just on an individual level, it is on a societal level. So the structuring of society is also incorporated in these myths. And I do believe that those ancient civilizations were trying to structure their society on this worldwide pattern. And so they were accomplishing amazing things that today we've lost even that pattern. So they may not have known the whole thing, but they definitely knew more than we do. But I'm not going to speak to, I don't know, what this child sacrifice stuff is obviously repulsive, and what is going on with that. And clearly some people seem to still think that's like a necessary thing. So, this is a very dark path to go down, but it's, I don't know if I have much more to add than that.
Well, we don't, and thank you, because what you're saying is perfect. It led me actually to a micro example of what you're talking about. It's something, an idea influencing a culture where we can see it as an observer as something that's not what the culture interprets. So, have you guys ever heard of cargo cults before?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a great example of this, because then you have this entire culture of people. They were not a cult, literally. They just called it that. And what they did is during in the Polynesian Islands, the U.S. and others, their allies would use these islands that these native indigenous folks were on, and they would use them as way stations. So they'd come in, they'd build satellites, obviously shown here, and then obviously runways and things like that. They would use it as short jump for supply trains. And what they did is in exchange for them being able to utilize the island and rape it of its resources and probably all sorts of other things, they gave them food, and they gave them all sorts of cool shit. And so they were like, oh, we love all this food, we get like cornflakes and shit. And so they loved it. And so whenever the war was over, all the allies pulled out. They weren't necessary anymore, so they didn't come back and didn't come bring food. So what these people did is that they built full-scale mock wooden aircraft and utilities used. Look at these goggles from this kid that they build out of wood and out of local raw materials. And so they build these things, and what they do is that they light pilot fires on the beach, and then they have these out as a signal for the gods to come back, right? For the planes to come back. So this idea of, again, this apprehension of an idea and taking it so far to this extreme of to commit their resources, their time, it took food and calories to create these intricate works here that they built. I mean, it's fascinating to me.
It is.
And it's just sort of a microcosmic example of just, and we think of things like the Sentinel Island people and all of that, and it's just folks that are living their lives, but this sort of impact that, I don't want to say a more advanced society, we'll say a more technologically advanced, and even that is a stretch because of the definition of technology, right? But if you look at things like this, you're just like, my God, the impact that makes and how they interpret it, which is so fascinating to me. Because that's all this is, right? It's just how people of the time saw what they saw and interpreted it and then passed it down, even to the point of just ideas. And maybe, for some reason, some kid fell off a cliff somewhere, bashed his head, and for some reason it just happened to rain that day. And so therefore they equated the two, even though that was the only connection, is one could say coincidence. And so therefore they repeat it, and then maybe with success, maybe they do this at the time when the rains were going to come anyway. And so it's just sort of this symbolic offering, even though they know they're going to be there anyway. So in this desperate moment, again, we don't know how these things are interpreted, but obviously we have modern day examples of how they can be misconstrued.
Yeah, it's like a literal, I would call that like a literalizing. So in the Bible, you do have also a passage where Solomon says, well, cut that child in half.
Yeah,
and
to prove the mother's
Abraham was going to sacrifice his son.
Right.
Yeah.
Isaac, that's right. And those are celestial. I've got a celestial Bible tour course, parts 1 and 2, that one of them talks about Abraham, Isaac, in that whole episode, and then Jacob and the children of Jacob. And one of them talks about the Solomon episode. And those are definitely celestial. I can say that with complete confidence, and I can demonstrate that they're celestial. And they're esoteric. The 2 babies in the Solomon story have to do with 2 births. Have you ever heard of like a second birth? Those are esoteric concepts that it's trying to teach us something that's really important and really true, but it's not literal. And in both cases, the child doesn't get actually killed.
Spoiler alert, David. Thanks a lot.
If you haven't made it through, Sunday school,
right? We've been around the last 2,000 years,
But to interpret something literalistically is to miss, or threatens to not just miss the esoteric message, but in some cases turn it on its head, invert it, and turn it into a message that's really, I believe that these stories, and I can show evidence, are designed to heal trauma and repair trauma, but they can be flipped on their head and turned into cause trauma. Anyway, yeah, I'm happy to show some slides. If we may be talking in these kind
awesome.
of,
Yeah.
airy, hazy
Philosophical
stars.
We're in
myths.
flow.
Yeah, let me
We're in
show
flow,
what
and
I
I love it.
mean. Yeah, I'll show a little bit of what I mean whenever we're ready. But Kesenya, if you wanted to respond, I kind of jumped in.
Please. I will, though, let the audio-only audience know that there is a visual component to this, and so the video will be linked top thing in the show notes there. You can find that on, I think, YouTube, Odyssey, Rockfin, we're over there, and the website. Make sure you all check the links below so that you can enjoy this as well. And either way, come hang out with us, because it's going to be this, and again, probably we're going to pepper in some pachyderm penis jokes in there. So, it's... come hang out with us and see this stuff, guys. So, David, thank you. With that great intro. David, take it away, please.
I'm just kidding. All right, let me share my screen. Let's see what's on my screen. Here it is. All right, let's go to that. All right.
I love this, by the way. I'm pointing it out here because of the touch that you take in this. Is that papyrus, that font that you use?
That's a papyrus font on the top.
Yeah. Have you seen that? Have you seen that SNL thing about the avatar and what's his name? And he's super pissed off about it and he's upset. He spins the whole thing. In fact, I'm going to note to link that below and I'm going to send it to both of y'all. We can't play it because of copyright and shit, but it's an SNL skit with, who's that dude from The Notebook? Somebody out there screaming this right now that loves it too.
Ryan Gosling.
There you go. Okay,
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling is in that bitch, and someone out there is laughing their ass off to this right now. I'm gonna link it, and we're gonna show it. In fact, both of you don't hang up when we end this call. We're gonna play it in real time together. Okay, my apologies, David. Go ahead. But this is what I wanted to say to
made
that.
fun of my font.
No. What I wanted to this, and that's the thing is I wanted to come back is to say that you personalize this stuff, like you make it for us. You have Brandon expanding reality, Kesenya guiding star. David, I wanted to point out the attention to detail, and thanks you
for that. And I'm going to show some things that, I always try and bring a little bit different examples because, some people may have seen a lot of my different presentations before. So I always try and bring in something a little bit different, but talking about the Maya, I didn't know you were going to talk about the Maya, but this is a drinking vessel. I thought, look, we're going to go and meet the gods in the stars. You're going to actually go and see different constellations, and I'll point them out with a laser pointer, and I may be able to show you some constellations that perhaps you've never been able to find yourself. We have a terrible lack of education. We can go through as many years of schooling as you want. You'll never get taught, I would guess, unless you went to some very different schools than I know of, how to find the constellations and what to look for in the night sky. So the different gods and goddesses and figures in the myths, Solomon and Abraham, whether they're gods, goddesses, princes, princesses, villains, monsters, Heracles fighting the Hydra, those are in the stars, and we'll see them in the stars. And I just thought I would use, some people have seen this before, but I thought I would use a different god this time. And I just happened to pick a Maya god. This is from you can see down in the lower right corner, this is from the Met in New York City. So you can go see this. I didn't get a chance the last time I was in New York City I was not able to go to the Met that time, but I want to go see this in person. But as soon as I saw it, I said, oh my goodness. So this is Chalk. He is a Maya god. He is a rain god. So I'll put that there because that's important. So a sky god, a storm god. But I want to point out a few features that he's got. He's in this lunge posture, and people have seen some of my other presentations know that this is a very distinctive posture. Look, he's got one leg forward, like his heel raised. He's got a weapon held over his back. In this case, it's an axe. I don't know if you can see it, so I'm going to put an arrow. That's the axe head. It's like a sharpened, axe head on a stick. And think of thunder gods or rain gods who have a weapon that looks like an axe. I'm thinking of Thor, who has a hammer. You can see that the outline is similar, whether it's an axe or a hammer. And in fact,
he got the axe in Infinity War. Yeah. Thor got the axe in Infinity War. It was forged in the Death Star. Yeah, him and Rocket did it. So actually, you're spot on with this, dude. I just wanted to update it. Yep.
Well, there is a god in Africa whose name is Shango, who is also a lightning, thunder, fire god, and he also has an axe. So Thor's hammer, it's the same constellation is what I'm saying. A couple other distinctive features on this. This is a piece of artwork that was 7th or 8th century. You can see I put it in very small print, all the stuff from the Met right there. This is a Maya ceramic. It's actually a tumbler, like a coffee mug. So this curves all the way around. And he's got one arm holding the axe over his back. One arm is reaching forward. And in this case, he's actually grasping a disc-shaped thing. And if you read the description on the Met, website, scholars debate what this disc is. I'll tell you what the disc is. They don't know what it is. It's in the heavens. And there's the disc. And then he's got a loincloth around his waist, and it's got like a tuft sticking out. You can see there's like this long extra piece of the loincloth sticking out with almost like a little pom-pom at the end. So that's important. And I'm going to show you, there's the tuft, the constellation. So these gods and goddesses are in the heavens. And once you start to like see the distinctive features of specific constellations, they match up with different deities around the world who have similar characteristics, like rain god, thunder god, Shango, Thor, Chak, Zeus. I'll show you some Zeus in a minute, but I'm just proving that the gods are in the stars here. I want to show, this is the constellation known as Hercules. We call this constellation Hercules. And that's the outline. I've inverted the background. I'll show you some, against a dark background in a minute, but just so you can really see the outline of Hercules against this Maya tumbler, I've angled it, but I haven't changed where the stars or the lines are in the sky. And this is a constellation called Corona Borealis, which means crown of the north, or the northern crown. We will be able to see that. If we wait long enough, we'll see Hercules come up in the east as well. In some myths, a Hercules figure will grasp a arching something, a Corona Borealis. Now look at this. There is Chak on a Maya tumbler. Look at how his legs are exactly in the posture of Hercules. His outstretched arm grasping a disc that is in the exact right position for Corona Borealis. And then you can see the constellation has the weapon. One hand is reaching forward, sometimes grasping a disc. One hand is arching or menacing with a weapon over. That's why, right? Because of that. And I'll just fade it in and out a little bit so that everyone can see. I'm not altering or, photoshopping anything here. This is just a screenshot of the night sky connecting the stars of Hercules and a picture from the Met in New York City of this beautiful Maya tumbler with the rain god Chak on it. And the stars on this picture are larger if they're brighter. This is an app called Stellarium. So they're larger if they're brighter. And there's a very bright star right here. It's the 5th brightest fixed star in the sky, Vega, which is located in the constellation of the Lyre. So all guitar players, Brandon, must pay homage to this constellation because that's the stringed instrument of the heavens. That's the harp that you see on a bottle of Guinness, by the way. That's the harp that King David played, that Leonard Cohen sang about. So in the Hallelujah song.
Yeah, and Orpheus rocked the shit out of one of those too, right?
Orpheus
so
was
Eurydice
a harp
just
player. That's
salted
right.
it up. Yeah.
You got it. So this is these different, once you start to know these different connotations that are associated with different parts of the sky, you can start to see, all the myths and the stories in the Bible are based on these constellations. But I'm pointing out Vega because remember that tuft that came off the hip of the god? You can see that Hercules could have a Hercules figure. It's not always Hercules, the hero that we know of as Hercules. It could be Zeus. It could be Chak, but they're going to have often a loincloth of some sort or a garment of some sort that has like a tail with a pom-pom at the end of it because of Vega right there. It's right there. So here's the night sky with the Milky Way, and there's Hercules that I just showed. And I'm going to I'm going to zip through this because I've shown this presentation, but I'm going to get to some stuff that's special and unique. But interrupt me at any time. This is from a piece of pottery it's in Germany today, but obviously it's from ancient Greece. That is Zeus. Do you see anything like distinctive about his posture that looks like chalk from the Maya?
Dude, it's fascinating. And then the loincloth, like the thing wrapping around his shoulders, the part that's hanging down is Vega at the corner, right?
He's wearing a shawl instead of a loincloth.
Shawl, that's what it is, yeah.
Well, whatever it is. It could be a mantle.
No, you're right.
I don't know what it's called, but he's menacing with one weapon, in this case, a thunderbolt weapon, over one shoulder, just like Chalk had his powerful axe, and he's got one arm stretched out. Look at Hercules, menacing with a weapon, deep lunge posture, one arm stretched out in front. I mean, I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for universities and art departments around the world to contact me and say,
no one recognizes this?
For so long.
You're the only one pointing this out?
I've even sent like scholarly articles to publications that purport to deal with, ancient artwork or ancient mythology. Oh, sorry, this is outside of our scope. What do you mean it's outside of your scope? This is like right in your wheelhouse. But anyway, and also
it doesn't fit the narrative. I'm glad
I've sent it to professors too, and that are art professors. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm just glad you have it. That's all I was going to say. Is I'm grateful that it was gifted to you, and it was gifted to you for a reason because you know what to do with it. And this is amazing. And this is the kind of stuff. It doesn't need to be recognized. Like, this is what's so cool to me. Like, I am way more fascinated by this than the dickheads that turned you away by not wanting to hear about it.
Well, everybody's got their paradigm, and there's a reason. Academia they have a very high bar of what there's a reason for all that, and I've got to present the evidence in a very airtight way. But yeah, so far nobody, like, I've been writing about this now for 13 years. Anyway, this is really undeniable, and I don't claim to be the first person to realize that the myths are based on the stars. I've said Plato shows hints that he knows about it. There was a philosopher in ancient Roman times named Macrobius. He shows hints. There's Hamlet's Mill in 1969. They wrote about it. There's Robert Taylor that I mentioned. Anyway, let me just zip through a little bit, but I want to prove to people who haven't heard about my work, when I say the gods and goddesses and characters in the Bible are based on the stars, this is what I'm talking about. There's Zeus, there's Chalk again, and this is from ancient, well, this is actually from Angkor Wat, but the gods and goddesses of ancient India from the Vedas. This is actually Indra up top in the scene. This is the churning of the ocean of milk, but there's Indra, and I'm going to make him bigger so that you can see he's in that exact same posture too. And you might notice a garment. Look,
son of a bitch.
He's got like a cool India looking silk, stuff around his hips, but still got the same pattern. Why? Because it's based on the stars. There's, Chalk. I already pointed that out, but same thing. I'll make it flash a little bit so everyone can see. Nice. And there's Zeus. And as you already figured out immediately, really? Brandon, right when you saw it, it's right there. And it's because Vega is right there. And for those who may be thinking ahead, Hercules, or Heracles, as he was called in ancient Greece, Hercules is his Roman name. He's also based on the same constellation. He's the son of Zeus. But you can see, has he got a weapon over his head? Yes, he does. Has he got a square-shaped head like the constellation Hercules? Yes, he does. Does he have one arm reaching out? Yes, he does. Does he have a garment with a long tail and a little pom-pom at the end? Yes, in this case, it's the lion. He wears the Nemean lion, and he has the head up over his head, and he's got a full beard to make his head more square, just like the constellation. This is a vase. He's actually fighting the Amazon women, the Amazon warrior women. So you can see the warrior woman to the left by the pom-pom, and then the warrior woman who's kind of like kneeling in front of him. He's got his outstretched arm, just like the constellation. And what has she got on the top of her helmet?
Yes.
Brandon already saw it. He's
I
like,
love it though. Dude. Well, I
Wait
only
a minute, man.
am so ready to see it because you showed us how to look at these things. Now it's connected everywhere, and thank you for that gift.
She's got a Corona Borealis arc on top of her head. In some ancient artwork, Hercules is actually grasping that crest. In this case, he's got her, he's putting his hand on her shoulder, and he's like, do you want to surrender, or do you want me to cut your head off?
But that relative distance between his outstretched arm and the Corona Borealis is exactly the equidistant.
It's perfect, isn't it?
It just doesn't have its hand in the disc like the Mayan. I wanted to ask you about something about that, by the way. Love this connection you made, David. Fascinating as always. I just love this. I'm sitting here just hearing this and watching this and being with y'all right now in the audience, and I feel all of this. I'm just sitting here going, God, I love my life. You know what I mean? This is one of those moments. Okay. So I'm grateful for this moment. That's one of those bookmark the universe. So give me more of this, right? So I wanted to ask you is, of the Mayans, the only difference in anything was the upper half. Now I have a question for you, and this may be silly, but I'm just going to ask. Mayans, I heard, had pools of water in which they viewed the stars from. So they didn't actually look up at them. They looked at reflecting pools to look at them in reflecting pools to see what was above, and that's how they created their maps. I'm curious to see, because Chalk had his arm arched down and the inverse upper body, if that was a pattern seen by the Maya as reflective of their location on the planet, meaning that, well, and also perhaps the way they were observing, because it's a reflection rather than a direct observation. That's perhaps why the upper half was inversed.
You are the first scholar in the world to point that out. So there's a PhD thesis in there for you, Brandon. You have to go do all the research.
No, you do
know.
it. Just take it.
No.
Take it. Like, connect it. That's my thing. Is I find random shit in this world, and I'm just like, hey, what do you think about this? And they'll go with it. You know.
I don't know.
I'm watching the presentation of the way the stars are in Stellarium where you are in the world. I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's upside down for us down here. So we have Aboriginal stories of Orion falling on his face and things like that because of the situation of these same constellations, but they're upside down, and so they have stories relating to them being in that different angular place. Yeah, so it's so fascinating.
Even the mares in the moon, right? Native American culture, let's say American cultures, Northern Hemisphere, look at it as a bunny rabbit laying at the bottom of the moon, right? And so it's got this real rabbit theme to it. So, Kesenya, do you guys over there, because the rabbit, I guess, would be on the top half from your perspective, do you all say anything about the mares of the moon?
I haven't heard anything about that. Doesn't mean
spot.
it doesn't exist. I haven't come across it myself. So
Got you. Yeah, that's fair.
But that's interesting.
Fair dinkum, right?
Yeah. Good food. So what I'm just wanting to establish that this is going on, and I'm going to show a little bit of. Sorry about that.
Dude, this is awesome. I'm not looking at this stuff the same ever again, because again, this is like looking at petroglyphs and this ancient art and everything. I love this, and I'm fascinated by it. Like, I'm so drawn to this. And so now, though, you've given me a way to look at it beyond just the aesthetic appeal. You've given me something to seek out and to notice. And I really appreciate that, because in the other examples, even though you used them from all over the world, I'll be able to recognize that now and the connection to it. So again, thank you, dude. This is just cool. Well,
I'm really excited to share this, and I'm excited when I see somebody else get excited about it. I think it's the most exciting thing in the world, but not everybody does, but I believe that this is a precious inheritance to all cultures. Like this ancient wisdom was given to every culture in their sacred stories and myths. There's Greek myths, there's Norse myths, there's the myths of ancient India, there's the myths of the Maya, there's the myths of the Native American cultures, Australia, Africa, around the world. Every culture has ancient myths, and they're all using the same system, which is remarkable. It's beautiful. It connects us all. And I'm going to show, because darn it, I didn't want to have the stars there yet. I wanted to point out some stuff in the so
video audience. Ignore that.
Yeah, look on the right half of your screen.
Cover your hand up.
Because we're doing this. Because we're doing this in the week of in this interview. We're doing this in Easter week. I thought, look, I'm just going to show a Bible story. It happens to be, a New Testament Bible story. It happens to be the Easter story, the crucifixion. This painting is a very interesting painting from an artist who lived in the 1400s. He was born in 1420. He lived through 1487. Giovanni, which, by the way, that name comes from Jove, right? Jove is a name for Zeus.
Like Bond.
Boccati, Giovanni Boccati, and he painted this beautiful painting of the crucifixion. And I just thought, if you're an astrologer, you might find some of the patterns on here like interesting, like the art that he chose, the patterns he chose to put into this painting. You see anything in there?
A lot of Scorpio, isn't there?
I'm putting you on the spot. Yes, I'm putting you on the spot. But what is going on here? We've got a shield or something with the scorpion, and then this, horse has got like his horse blanket. There's a scorpion. Yeah. There's a scorpion. There's another scorpion in case you're not getting the scorpion vibe. Here's one over here.
7
and
at least.
Just another one right there. I don't know. Why? Why is there a scorpion underneath, the crucifixion scene? What's going on? And here's the stars of the sky off to the left. Let me see if I can shed some light on this. This is Hercules, just for orientation. We've already seen some figures associated with Hercules, not particularly in this scene. We're going to deal with some constellations below Hercules, but I'm just showing you where Hercules is because we just talked about some Hercules figures. Below Hercules, and then below Hercules is the constellation. Are there any zodiac constellations, Kesenya, that come to mind when you look at this painting with all these scorpions?
Yes, Scorpio, obviously, which is,
Obviously, we're talking about Scorpio. And Scorpio is directly below Hercules, but also beneath Hercules is a very important constellation whose foot actually does get crossed by the ecliptic. The zodiac is the band of stars, constellations that the sun, moon, and planets of our solar system pass through as their background. And they do pass through the foot of this constellation that I'm going to outline in between Hercules and Scorpio. So look in between Hercules and Scorpio. Very important constellation. I talk about this constellation a lot because it is so central to the myths of the world. It plays a very important role in many, many myths. It's in the zodiac, but not in the zodiac. It's in the zodiac, but it's above the zodiac. It's the constellation Ophiuchus, and it looks like a tombstone or an obelisk. There's that oblong rectangle with a triangle on top, and then serpents on either side. And that constellation plays the role of the pivotal figure that's between heaven and earth, the pivotal figure that connects us between the mortal realm, or what Brandon likes to call the 3D realm that we're all trapped in down here, the realm of the zodiac that tells us about all our different personality traits, and the celestial realm, the divine realm, the gods, Hercules playing the Most High, Zeus or Chalk or Thor, not always the Most High God, but in the case of the Bible, yes, it is Hercules most of the time. That is, so the Son of God Jesus is associated with Ophiuchus. He's the pivot. This is esoteric. I'm giving you this is the black belt information about the esoteric system. But just because we're doing this interview on the week that this is, I thought I'd show some Bible connections. Look at the shape of Ophiuchus, and you can see there's a very bright star in the Scorpio that I drew that line down from the top of the triangle. It's a cross invoking constellation, and I'll prove it to you. If you want to read some of my books, I go into it in greater detail, but that line is going down to the brightest star of Scorpio, which is Antares. It's a reddish star, but that's basically the cross. That Ophiuchus, Jesus is mostly associated with Ophiuchus, not entirely, but mostly, and definitely in this particular scene, which I'll show some more evidence just to finish this off, and then I'll show some scenes from Bryce Canyon. Let me see if I can fade out a little bit and bring in Ophiuchus is near another constellation. Can you see the moon there? This is the moon where it is right now. You can see the dates down at the bottom if you look really closely. We're here on April 4th. The moon is almost full. I was wrong when I said it just became full. It's getting full. I haven't been. Things are going in all directions right now for me. But the moon is almost full. It'll be a new moon when we do this event. It's just tonight happens to be at the head of this constellation that I'm going to outline for you right now. That's the constellation Virgo, the Virgin. Virgo, the Virgin. She's going across the sky in the northern hemisphere, at least, on her back with her legs elevated and raised.
Not going to be a virgin for very long. Come on.
Yeah, it suggests a couple of things. Brandon already gravitated to. It suggests, having sex, which is present in a lot of myths, including with this particular constellation. But it also suggests giving birth. When a woman's giving birth, she'll have her legs elevated and raised to give birth, pushing against the stirrups or the foot pedals. And who's she giving birth to? So who's the son of this particular virgin in this story is?
I love the arrow. I love the action arrow out, because that's what I visualize, is her shooting that thing out of her virgin vagina and him landing over there all upright. And he's like, I got snakes. Maybe that's an umbilical cord that he's holding. You know what I mean? That's awesome.
Brandon's taking the
Brandon,
ball and running with it.
You are going to bring the humor to Utah. That's
what your boy sees. That's all.
Yeah.
And so this is just additional evidence. I'm just backing up my case that Jesus is often associated with Ophiuchus. And I'll just show one more piece of amazing artwork. This is a triptych. A triptych is like a painting usually on wood. This is on panels of wood that are like hinged. So it's like a surround feature. Before they had, IMAX screens, they had triptychs. And so they would paint, and it'd be on wooden pieces that were hinged. And so the sides could kind of wrap around and you would feel like you were in the scene. This is by a Dutch painter named Maarten van Heemskerk. And Maarten, of course, comes from Mars. Kerk comes from church, or that's a word for church. So he's Martin of the Heems Church, I guess. He lived from 1498 to 1574, a little bit after the previous painter. But if you can see it, Jesus is famously crucified between two thieves, right? Now, he's on a very traditional looking cross, which I just showed you in Ophiuchus. But I really like this particular triptych, because look at the way that the thieves are being crucified. They are in just massive contorted positions, because who are the two thieves on either side of the central cross of Ophiuchus is the serpent halves. So like you said, Brandon, Ophiuchus the name means serpent holder. So Ophiuchus is holding two halves of the same serpent. You have snake handling, comes from the Bible says they shall hold serpents and not be, poisonous serpents and not be harmed. That's from Ophiuchus.
I've never made that connection before. That is awesome. You hear about those folks in tents, that just let the venomous snakes bite them and shit. That is fascinating. I never made that connection.
Well, I don't think they let them bite them, because
they're not supposed to
from that. But the idea is that you're safe. It's taking something literally that's actually celestial and esoteric. But the two sides of Ophiuchus, the head and the tail, they play different roles in different myths. But if you can see, I don't know, are we covering up the artwork with our faces, or is it all visible to you and the audience?
Yeah,
Okay,
Zoom will
great.
do it automatically. We're great.
Perfect. So you can see those two thieves, like the thief that's on the tail side, there's like a line, the flat tail that's angled down. There's the head that's kind of round, and that thief kind of has a bald head, and he's like, it's just evocative in my mind of, look, I know where these two thieves come from. They come from the head and tail of Ophiuchus. Like, this system has been somehow passed down through the centuries, because I was showing you artwork from 400 BC. There's even more ancient artwork. I could show you artwork from ancient Egypt. I could show you artwork from the Pylos combat agate, which was found in a tomb in ancient Greece that was sealed up in 1500 BC. So classical Greece is like 500 BC, 400 BC, 300 BC. This is from 1,000 years earlier, and it's the same celestial patterns in their artwork. So how this got passed down through the centuries, I'm not sure. Whether the artists actually knew exactly what they were doing, I'm not sure. They may have just been taught this is the way you portray, these conventions we use for these figures. I don't know if they were taught the system or not, but clearly this is going on. So I just wanted to show some evidence.
So interesting. You got to wonder about modern art, and they've really moved away from a lot of these traditional concepts, and whether that's been a disruption of a purposeful disruption of the passing on of ancient knowledge in this form. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
that's a very great interesting point.
Yeah, great way to put it. A couple other observations too, and just curious if this is anything. The red shield at the bottom, that could be representative of Mars, which you said Martine Hemskenkirk said as well. And then you have the guy face planting that's nude with the.
Yes,
he's got
I
a
was going to point him out.
Decent butt, I guess, with the time. But if you continue his momentum forward, that is something that the kids today call the scorpion, because his legs will come up over his head if he's falling forward, and that creates a scorpion tail. There's tons of videos about this online. They're funny. And so whenever this dude face plants, he's got Scorpio represented there right underneath. And either way,
right beneath Ophiuchus. Brandon, we did not rehearse this.
No, we didn't. And either way, he's crawling. He's the only one on all fours crawling on his belly, which would be representative of the scorpion.
And if you look at him very carefully, like he's got his arms out. Look at Scorpio to the left, right beneath Ophiuchus, right beneath the cross of Ophiuchus. Look at his angle, but even. So that part of the scene is actually the soldiers gambling for the garments of Christ. So you can see he's got like a garment. There's a guy kind of up and to the right from him who's pointing a finger at him. And I'm actually going to point him out because, Brandon, I'm glad you brought it up.
You already had the arrow
back to the
superimposed.
Yeah.
Obviously, you didn't do this since I talked about it. Yeah.
No. What I'm saying is we didn't rehearse this, but you're seeing the patterns, like because the artist put them there, like they're there. And this is in the sky. That is the Scorpio figure. Look at his arms are apart, like the Scorpio, and the body is in the angle of Scorpio. But also, if you connect it to the garment, and then the garment, it actually runs past a skull. That's the skull of Golgotha, right? This is the place. He's crucified at the place of the skull. But the garment runs, and it even actually goes past that skull. So let me just show the outline that I kind of see that? Like,
yeah.
If he's not Scorpio at the bottom of the cross, just like that other artist from 100 years earlier was putting scorpions on the horse in the shield.
Yeah, he had no chill with it.
He is.
Yeah.
He is.
Well,
and I didn't know that about the dance move or the falling or whatever you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like a thing, when like people are skiing and they fall face first, it's mostly like kids and athletes,
scorpion.
and they're a lot of forward momentum. And then instant face plant, your feet, obviously, they're still moving at that same momentum, and they're the only thing that are not impacted by friction of the ground. So they fly over you. Sort of like, when you're driving in a car and you have an impact like the soup
I just
can.
never heard of that.
It is called the Scorpion. You guys can look it up. They're fun. You know what I mean?
Do you know what's really interesting to me from an astrological point of view is that in astrology, it is the sign of Scorpio that rules skulls, death.
Damn, there you go.
All that stuff. And here is, you know what I'm saying? So there's when we talk about Golgotha, the place of the skull in the Bible, it's actually a reference to astrological Scorpio as well, because Scorpio rules skulls and all those kind of nasty things. Not the skulls are nasty, but you know what I mean? Scorpio skulls, deserts and things like that are all Scorpio ruled.
Yeah. Plus, it's the inspiration for a lot of faded tattoos. If you have a faded tattoo of a scorpion riding or coming in and out of a skull, take a picture of it, mail it in. We'd love that. Yeah. This is fascinating, but I didn't even think of the connection now. And now, David, you got to, now we get to look at this from if there's a skull in any of these, then that could be an association with Scorpio as well. It's synonymous. That's awesome. It's just another thing to look for. Fascinating.
Yeah.
God, I love this.
It's all fascinating. And there's constellations nearby there that play in like this whole scene. There's other constellations that are part of it that I talk about. I wrote a book in 2016 called Star Myths of the Bible that goes into this and uses this picture and some others, but goes through the whole Bible. And then, like I said, the Celestial Bible Tour, that's the online, on-demand classes where you can see it a little bit more like this with me talking about it. But let me just segue into. So now that you know that the stars, the myths are based on the stars, come to Bryce with Brandon, Kesenya, me, the guys from Grimerica. This is some
Conversations like this
last year. Yeah, conversations like
what's
this.
gonna
We'll
happen.
be seeing the stars. That's Bryce Canyon. I'm just going to flip through some. These are people from, this was the first one, 2021. This is, some people who were on the hike from our group, and just this gorgeous, fantastic, like fantasy-like landscape of Bryce Canyon. I'll show you some Zion Canyon in a minute. This is still Bryce Canyon for scale. Can you see how big this is? There's a person right there.
And the path in the middle. You can see that's a
the
single
little trail.
single tread
That's the
trail.
Yeah. Going up between these massive walls and the beautiful spires, which I believe this has to do with catastrophic geology. This is not created by just ordinary streams kind of trickling, there's a whole catastrophic aspect to this. We're going to see some pictographs. This is actually in Zion National Park. So we're going to both Bryce and Zion National Parks on this trip and doing some beautiful hikes in both places. The stars part is mainly at Bryce, but every morning there's an opportunity, like right from the cabins. If you want to get up early, I'll go out and show the stars there. We'll do some stargazing from the cabins as well. We'll see these pictographs. And if you want to go up through the Narrows, this was on the flex day. Some of us went up the hike that's called the Narrows. This is a slot canyon. Well, Zion. This is Zion, is full of slot canyons. So you can choose to do different things on the flex day, but this is one of the hikes that we all do together. You can just see the scale of Zion and the forces that shape this. Again, people in the background, these are from our group. These are participants in last year's event. There they are, little tiny people down there. These are big. And those, I think they were like giant mud, those were soft when they got carved that way. They weren't hard and then they were carved over the millennia. This was like all flowing mud or something at one point. But there was some kind of catastrophe. I won't get too into all the theories. Then we do breath work with the great Brandon Powell. There he is, doing some rhythm on his djembe, which he will bring, and he leads just fantastic breath work. This is the main cabin. This is like the main area of the cabin where we do the breath work every morning. It is unforgettable. You will really enjoy the breath work. The cold work is optional, but there's me we set up these inflatable pools and fill them up with hose water. You can see the snow in the background behind my head. And there's actually some sheets of ice on top of the water there. If you look above Brandon, you can kind of see it. And Brandon, he's a pro at this. You can see he's a lot further down in the water than I am.
I like your reach for the sun, and so I will ask that. Let's put it in the sun next time. Can we just start there? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're like a cat stretched out in the sun. It's awesome. But you're doing it, man. And I actually have never done cold plunges before, so I'm very much looking forward to this. I'm a very warm, like hot shower kind of person. I'm very like, let's just do it. But I absolutely see the benefit of it. So again, this is one of those things I've been very curious to invest time into and energy into. And now the opportunity to do it with all of you is wonderful. This is so cool.
And with a master, like Brandon really is.
Dude.
Like
we're not just hopping in a bathtub.
He has done this, he does it himself every day, but he has done this with groups around the world. He is a pro. He's going to make sure it's safe. And of course, this is totally optional. Nobody has to do anything, obviously. But the breath work, like everyone should really participate in the breath work if you want to, if you feel comfortable doing it. But the cold work is, not everybody does it, is all I'll say about that. But we do go, this is the Virgin River. Everything at Zion National Park is named after pretty much mythical or biblical themes. The Virgin River flows down through Zion, and we do, it's also very cold, not quite as cold as the ice baths, but we do have an opportunity to, if you don't want to do the ice baths, you can do the Virgin River. You can do both. You can do neither, whatever you want. But it's a really just a fun time. Let's see here. There's the details. And it's at the website is Contact at the Cabin, but the two guests who've been there, the Grimerica guests who've been there every year is myself and Brandon Powell. But now we can add Kesenya from Guiding Star and Brandon. You can come hang out with Brandon from Expanding Reality. And
I'm doing the
everybody else.
astrology. Brandon's doing the comedy.
I'm doing whatever the hell y'all want. I'm just going to be there, and we're just going to get amongst them. I love this. I'm going to be there reminding you and giving you back to yourself, which is what I love about this crew. All of us are here on the same mission. We just do it in different beautiful ways that we're all very passionate about. And that is we're all here to give people back to themselves. And you do that through a myriad of ways. Having incredible presentations, a dope real-time, things happening right in front of you that you get to enjoy this amazing esoteric information. And like I said, I would rather, everything you just showed us here, David, I'm so fascinated by this. And I know everybody else is too. I would so much rather hear it from you than, again, with those dickheads, that said this was nothing. And we use dickhead as a term of endearment, of course. But
I'm here.
yeah, like the way you guys throw around the word cunt everywhere. It's just a form of, we just love you. You know what I mean?
No, we don't do that.
Don't y'all call everybody cunts? I thought that was the way it worked. Every Australian I've talked to, especially you.
Okay.
You just turned it off for the camera.
not.
Okay, I see. Okay. Either way, but this is just one of the most exciting things, and I could not imagine doing this with anybody else. This is so cool, and thank you for adding our names to that. That's very sweet, David. This whole thing is so cool.
You're going to be there. You're going to be there. It's going to be really exciting.
That's right. Can't wait. This is amazing, guys. Well, I'm super excited. Of course, all the ways to find y'all, the event, everything are going to be linked down below. So did y'all have any closing remarks or anything before we get it capped off here? Anything you want to remind folks about or make sure that we get in?
Just come join us. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, if not this year, make plans for the future. There's other Contact events, Contact in Mount Shasta. I think they did do one in Durango, like in the early days, Brandon. But the other thing I would say is I think you did a recent interview, or I know you did, with Brandon Powell and the guys, the team from Grimerica, Darren and Graham. So Brandon Powell is also just amazing with he is a force of nature, is one way of describing him. So if you miss that episode with Brandon Thomas interviewing Brandon Powell, I would definitely recommend go check that out, or check out Brandon Powell on Grimerica when he's been on. It's just going to be fantastic, and it's just a great mix. So I'm really looking forward to it, and really glad you're going to be there, Brandon and Kesenya and Mary and everyone. It's just really an unforgettable, special vibe.
Yeah. Come hang out with this, guys. This is going to be so cool. I'm just, again, so excited. And I will link the first episode that we did. That's going to be one before this. So I'll go ahead and link that directly down below. So if you didn't catch that, go ahead and click down there. And also a reminder for the video version of this, make sure y'all come see David's presentation on this episode. It was so cool. And then again, if you get the opportunity and it aligns, come hang out with us April 20th through the 24th at Duck Creek Village, Utah. Super excited about this. I cannot wait.
Thanks,
thank
Brandon.
y'all.
Me neither. It was awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Man.
Yeah. No.
We're all waiting for
We're
each
just
other
all
to
so
talk.
excited. Yeah.
Keep
This
going.
is so exciting. Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate this. Cannot wait to see you.
Looking forward to it.
Likewise.
Thank you for having me, Brandon.
Mary and I just want to take a moment and thank Kesenya Moore and David Mathisen for coming by. That was an awesome episode.
It really was.
Fascinating, right? And we get to
Yeah.
go see that in Bryce
I
Canyon.
know. I am so excited.
Dude, so, all right. We are absolutely hyped. So a couple spots left. Y'all check the show description down there for the link for Contact at the Cabins, but it's Contact at the Canyons, this particular event. They put on several. So come hang out with this, guys. It's going to be absolutely incredible. All the ways to find David and Kesenya are located down in the show description. Check that out. While you are down there as well, check out all the resource links and stuff that we've got for you down there. Food Forest Abundance, Opus, Red Circle, and the Manifestor's Guide, all stuff down there to help you out, so take advantage if you fancy. Also, while you guys are down there as well, that's where you can find the link, expandingrealitypodcast.com, not only for the video version of this, for David's awesome presentation if you missed it, but also where you can support the mission. This is a value for value system, so any little bit helps, and we're grateful for every single damn bit of it. Also down there, you can find the link for the handbook. That is the book that we made to go along with the show. It's super cool and dope, and I'm very proud of that thing, so check it out. And that's also where you can sign up to become an Expansive Insider, and that is a wonderful way to support the show. That's where you get all the bonus content, and it's an awesome community over there. We're starting to do these lives and hang out. We're bringing guests on. It's a lot of fun. So other than that, beyond anything else, go out into this incredibly beautiful place, whatever the fuck this thing is, and pick up a piece of litter, right? Mm-hmm. Be nice to everybody you come across.
Absolutely.
Okay. Get out of the left-hand lane. You got somebody behind you want to pass, right?
Please, yeah.
Fuck off with that,
Right.
dude. Just get over it already, right? And we thank you for that in advance for everybody that does participate in that. And you know who you are, so we're not talking to you. But above anything else and all of it, guys, go out into this incredibly beautiful and mysterious place, whatever the fuck this thing is, and y'all be good to one another. Thank you so much for watching, listening, engaging, and hanging out. We hope to see you at the Contact at the Canyons. Send us off, Mary.
Bye.